it takes courage to do what you did, even to step into a situation. Yeah.
It never happened. It never happened, right? I deserved it. Like I must have deserved it. I must have asked for it. It's my fault. And, a four-step method now into continuing that journey and building your confidence. I need help. Does anybody know where I can get the help that I need? And putting my life into God's hands and just letting Him take the wheel because I couldn't do it anymore.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Of course, you know me. My name is Dr. Keith McNally, and I'm here with my co-host,
Noemi Beres from Cyprus.
and this is the Sacred Divine.
And today we are joined by the fabulous and amazing Laurie Murphy. So get ready for an inspiring journey today. Welcome, Laurie. It's so nice to see you. Nice to meet you. I was honored to be on your show last time, and I'm just so grateful that you're today here with us. So
Yes, thank
welcome.
you. Thank you so much, Keith and Noemi. It's such an honor to be here. And yes, Noemi, she was a guest on my podcast, the She Thrives Influential Women podcast. And we just had a great conversation and just have had just this great connection ever since.
Well, I understand both of you are Scorpios, and so that makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah, we vibe. We're Scorpio sisters,
We do. Absolutely. 100%. Yeah. Yes.
Well, can I get the conversation started real quick because I see something really valuable behind you.
Oh,
It's a
yes.
book.
Yes, that is Born to Risk. And Born to Risk is an anthology that I was very fortunate to be a part of with alongside 49 other co-authors, where we shared a story of how we took a major risk that became our greatest reward. I was also blessed with an awesome award, for being a part of that anthology. So it was a real honor. It was a real honor. And in
So,
March, I'm co-authoring another anthology that comes out in March called Warrior Women Series 3. And that's going to be a very powerful book too. So it's awesome. Sure.
what was the risk?
So this is a very big part of my story. I'm a recovering alcoholic of just over 13 years sober. Basically, what I spoke about in Born to Risk was how I was terrified to start my journey in sobriety. I thought it was the end of my road. I thought that my life was over. I was 29 years old, and I thought my life was going to be stuck in church basements and just be full of sorrow and misery for the rest of my life. I thought that I had destroyed everything and I'd never be able to regain it. So, walking into a room full of people I've never met, admitting that I was powerless over alcohol, my life was unmanageable, and I was defeated. I find that to be a very big risk. And if you're somebody who has, been in that situation, I'm sure can relate to how that is a big risk, right? Like you're basically surrendering, you're waving the white flag and you're saying, I'm done, like I can't do this anymore. And it's painful. I didn't know that it was actually the beginning of my life, starting over. And it was fresh and new. And even though it was painful and raw, I began this journey of growth, getting to know who I am, healing and, transformation, finding my confidence, my self-worth. And it led me to my calling, which is to work with women, empowering them as a coach and basically walking them through their journeys of self-discovery and transformation, health and wellness, and personal growth and development. Um, and it's become like a mission of mine to be able to use my story and my experiences to help other women.
I love it. Noemi, how did the two of you meet? She said that you were on her podcast.
Yes. I think someone introduced us to each other, and I'm not sure who it was. I was actually thinking about that before the show.
I think it was
Um,
Kathy Durkin.
Was it? Okay. So
She
maybe
does
she
all
Yes.
the
was the one.
books, so it makes
Yes, that's how
sense.
we connected then. Yes. I just had a chat with her the other day. So yeah,
So we're
absolutely.
going to do a shout
She's
out.
brilliant. I love
She
her.
is. Yes, she's amazing. Yeah, yeah.
Kathy, we just gave you
Yes.
a shout out. Um, Noemi, so what is all this about? What's going on here?
So you often talk about, guiding women through fear. And I listened to one of your previous podcast interviews, and it was really, really fascinating to hear that. So what strategies do you use to help these women to take those first steps? Because those first steps are not easy. I mean, these are, those are the, hardest.
Absolutely. So and this is actually a method that I, put together last year because I find that initially the main component and what keeps us stuck, what keeps us held back is fear. So I, will utilize my four-step method in overcoming fear, right? And that's basically, in so many words, just identifying what the fear is, what the cause and condition is, and taking small actionable steps to be able to overcome it. And what comes from that is confidence. So now we dive deeper, and this is typically an entirely different program and a different step. And this is something that I have found to be very valuable. I've used this in workshops and I've taken women through all of these steps, and I coined the confidence code, which is, a four-step method now into continuing that journey and building your confidence, identifying what your values are and being able to find actionable steps in navigating that, building that confidence. And each of these steps take you to a place of being able to say, hey, you spend all this time living in fear and not being full of, discontent, and your confidence is low and you're kind of a wallflower. That was me. This was me. When I first got sober, I was not the person that would get on a stage and talk in front of a room full of people. I was the person that clung to the wall because I was terrified of what people thought of me. And to be able to use the steps I took to guide women into being able to thrive in their lives, to live to their fullest potential, to be able to stand up and be like, I have a voice and I'm going to use it and hear me roar. Like that is what I love to do. And if I can do it, so can anybody else.
What you said, I'm challenged with, and I'm not pushing back, but
No, it's
because
okay.
it takes courage to do what you did, even to step into a situation to say I'm broken. And you just said that you take women through a process in which they find courage. And so,
Mhm.
wasn't there a point, didn't you feel courageous when you were broken? And so, or was it when you figured it out that you said, okay, I am courageous? Can you take me through that process?
So I really have to say, looking back, I did not see me, admitting that I was powerless over alcohol. Me raising my hand in a room full of people and saying, my name is Lori, I'm an alcoholic. I did not see that as courageous at that time.
Okay.
I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified. And, I remember that day I first walked into that room. Um, just prior to it, I was laying in bed in like physical pain, crying on the phone with a friend of mine, and they were trying to tell me that everything was okay, that I was being too hard on myself because I had gotten into trouble. So now there's legal situation, and I was just low down on myself, basically talking about how I was, a POS, and um, my mother basically, got all drill sergeant on me and dragged me to that AA meeting, right? And I walk into that room and I don't even know what came over me because I was sitting there and I was only like, I remember it being my mind being clouded and I was only half-heartedly present. But all I heard was someone say, raise your hand if you have 24 hours. And I shot my hand up and I just said 72 hours, not knowing even why I was doing that. It was almost like, if you want me to be honest with you, there was a spiritual intervention that was going on inside me when I was sitting in the back of the police car. And I talk about this story in Warrior Women in depth of what the experience was that I had. And I'm sitting in the back of this police car and I'm fighting the police officer and yelling deep inside. There's just something that came over me and said, you're done. And it was almost just like that was when that whole compulsion to drink was lifted, and I never looked back. And then I'm being led to this room full of people and just raising my hand. Like, I don't know. I didn't necessarily see it as courageous back then. I didn't know what it was. All I knew was that I was putting my whole life into a greater being that I call God. I'm putting my life into God's hands and just letting him take the wheel because I couldn't do it anymore. And I didn't even realize I was doing it until I had the moment of I'm really leaning on something greater than me that I thought abandoned me.
Yeah, so that was basically your turning point when you just
Yes.
changed, you shifted, and I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
So,
Like,
and yeah, and you mentioned like you overcome all these personal struggles, with addiction, and it was a very long and hard journey. And what wisdom can you share with those feeling stuck in these self-destructive cycles?
when I was in that place of, this vicious cycle of self-destruction, it was waking up every day, looking myself in the mirror and just feeling nothing but literal hatred for myself, not wanting to live. And I mean, I was almost like I didn't want to live, but I was too afraid to die. And it's very conflicting and a very horrible and dark place to be. And when I started my journey in recovery, I was surrounded by people that loved me until I was able to love myself. People who went from being complete strangers to being like a family. And I truly encourage people to find a community because community, without it, I don't think I would have gotten here. And when I got into this community and I started to listen to what others did to help them and took small steps into, in the recovery, we have a 12-step program. So we're taking 12 steps. And I did that piece by piece and I did it slowly. I didn't rush through it. And it took time, but I would say that taking these actionable steps, a lot of it was acknowledging what I had done wrong, finding forgiveness for myself, finding, making right with the people I've harmed and apologizing and saying I was wrong, like taking ownership over myself. And that was terrifying. And that took a whole other level of confidence to be able, because it's hard to look at yourself and be like, wow, I really messed up. Like, I can't believe I even did that. And now I have to go look at this person and say, what I did to you is wrong and hope to God they forgive you and understanding that they might not, but you're cleaning up your side of the street.
And I like that. And I love that. But your community, I think, started with your mom dragging you out of bed. Because she's the one you said earlier who
She
got
was
you.
not happy with me. And I
And
mean, it
and moms
was
typically ain't when their kids are screwing up, and I could appreciate
no.
that. But
It was not like, okay, we're gonna go. It's like, you're going. Let's go. It's like,
we've
thank you,
called that
mom.
tough love throughout the years. There's sometimes there just has to be that person who just is pouring into you. And then from that moment, more people poured into you because they saw the value of who Lori
Yeah.
is, not necessarily
Yeah.
who you thought you were. And so,
Yeah.
can you speak to that? So, the value, what value do you now find in yourself?
When I see myself now, like one of my biggest values, like my top core value is my love for other people and kindness. And I think that that's a huge value to be able to be welcoming to a person, no matter their background, no matter who they are, no matter, race, religion, whatever, who you are, we all bleed red. And to me, I think that that is a very powerful value. And when I see myself now and recognizing that that's a core value of mine, it's something that I stand strong in a world where that is not so much the case, it's almost just like, I think that that's a very powerful value. And I love, and I'm not saying this in a conceited, like, hey, I think so highly of myself. I'm the bomb, right? Like, I'm not conceited. I'm saying that of this out of self-love. I love this about myself. And it was something that's always been a part of me. And I wasn't able to see then because I was in a place of darkness, but now I'm in a place of, you know, knowing that I have this, that I have worth and I have value to offer other people. The biggest thing that I can offer them is a safe space to know that they are good with me. Like they can tell me anything. Nothing they say is going to make me, turn my back on them. I'm going to love them no matter who they are, and I have their back.
And you also mentioned during, I remember from the interview that you talk about the different type of addictions that we have nowadays. Many women, like it can be food, it can be drinks, drugs, whatever. It can be over-exercising yourself. And I just love that angle because addiction can become in different shapes and forms. Can you talk about that a little bit?
And I've experienced all of them. Like alcoholism was definitely the one that, is prominent because it's a big part of what led me to my breakdown, right? But the truth is that when I got sober, I needed something else.
Mm.
Like I always had to have a clutch, right? So I also smoked cigarettes for years. I quit that about 8 years ago, but I went from alcohol to food. So when I got sober, I was 165 pounds. And then I'd say within a year and a half, I got up to almost 300 pounds because I started diving into baked goods and greasy foods. Like I needed to have something that shielded me because I had all of this trauma that I had not faced yet. Like to be honest with you, I didn't even know was there because I was so, you know, blinded and clouded by it that I just needed this protection. It was almost like I didn't want people to really see me, right? Or see that how damaged I was. Um, so I dove into food. Like I've had retail addictions. Like when I was younger, I remember I was going through a breakup and I went and I maxed out 2 credit cards on clothes, right? Like just because it made me feel better. It
Yeah,
gave me
yeah.
that fulfillment and gave me this, this rush that I needed, right? Or addictions to exercise during COVID when the world shut down for like I was compulsively exercising because I had so much anxiety, I didn't know what to do with it. And I started finding myself addicted to the exercise because it gave me the same feeling I had with like alcohol or food. Um, Things like that. You know what I mean? It gave me this, it was almost just like I don't want to say fulfillment, but it was like, it just was that missing piece, I guess. So trying to navigate through these things to be able to find a healthy balance in life, it's certainly been an interesting adventure.
Well, interesting is a very unique word here. And so I'm just going to add some backstory here because I recognize some of the brokenness that you have been through. My trauma is I'm a Marine, I'm a disabled veteran through PTSD. So 5 suicide attempts, very broken individual. And
Mhm.
only recently, you know, did all those pieces kind of hit me at once and people were recognizing saying, Keith, something's not quite right here. You need to go seek help. And I did. So I actually started therapy last year. And so as the time of this recording, so that was 2024. Was that part of the you're talking heavily about the 12-step program,
Mhm.
but is dealing with the trauma, is that part of the healing process as well?
It is. And honestly, it wasn't until I addressed part, this big part, I struggled up until this point. So my trauma happened when, and it was more than one. There was several different things that were going on, and it all happened when I was a teenager. My parents' divorce was not good, and we had a lot of chaos and difficulties in our families that did create some traumas. There was trauma that happened outside of the house where, it has happened more than once, but there was one specific occasion where I was sexually assaulted. I never faced it. I never addressed it. I just dove into substance. Like I was using, other than alcohol, I was using substances like marijuana, hallucinogens, anything I could get my hands on to basically take away
Yeah.
right? Or cover,
Yeah.
suppress,
When,
you know
yeah.
what I mean? Not have to face it,
Pain
silence it.
sucks. Yeah.
It never happened. It never happened, right? I deserved it, you know, like I must have deserved it. I must have asked for it. It's my fault. And well, I'm just going to pretend it never did. And
Mhm.
so, needless to say, I actually did not have any of that resurface until I was about maybe 6 or 7 years sober, maybe 6 years sober, somewhere around there. And I was sitting with a group of women at a birthday party in a church, record, room. And they were talking about this was back when the Me Too movement it was really, kicking up into gear. And we were kind of just, they were talking about that particular topic. And I started to like, all of a sudden it was like, I was there, but I wasn't present because all of a sudden in my mind, I'm right back into the room where I was 16 years old being sexually assaulted. And I was just like, huh. So I just all of a sudden I was like, well, I got a story. And I shared my story and they're like, wow. And I'm like, and the funny part is that for 20 years, I totally forgot about it. And I just like blacked it out. And I'm like, this is the first time I've talked about it. And they just like mouth dropped and they're like, you're in the right place. Later that night, we all went to the movies and I stopped home to take care of my dog. And I didn't think much of it, but then it was like that. It didn't leave me. And it got to a point where now I'm sitting in my after the movies, like even like after a couple days, at one point I was sitting in the dark in my apartment with the front door locked, like this under a blanket, and terrified that the people that harmed me were going to come through that door and do it again. And I'm like, these people don't even know where I am, who I am. Like it's been 20 years and I'm like, this isn't right. So I reached out in a private social media group of women, recovery based, and I knew all of the women in the group personally. And I was like, I'm struggling with this. I need help. Does anybody know where I can get the help that I need? And somebody suggested Albany County, where I live, has had a program for this specific topic where you could get therapy and
Okay.
assistance. So I went with a therapist. I worked with her for a year and a half. We did EMDR, which I would say is not an easy treatment if you've ever done it, but it's so rewarding because when I went through that, it was like something lifted inside me. It was no longer something that burdened me. I wasn't carrying it anymore. And there was just this major shift how I saw myself. And it just gave me more of a drive to want to help others. Because if there's anything I've learned in my journey is that I didn't go through this to not turn it into a positive, to help other people who are other women who have been through it and don't know how to navigate through it. Does that make sense?
Um, totally. And just for record's sake, for those who are watching and listening, EMDR stands for?
Oh, I don't remember what
Okay,
it
never
stands
mind. I'll edit
for.
that out.
I'm like, I'm
All
like,
good.
I totally forgot what it stands for.
Noemi, help us end this conversation.
Yes, I will do that. So I know now you're an author, you're, a successful entrepreneur, a coach, and you do so many things and so many good in your life. So what kind of daily or weekly practices, help you stay aligned, grounded or empowered? There's something they can take away from this conversation, just something is important for other
Oh,
people too.
yes. So daily, one of my I love my early mornings, and one of my practices that I do is like one of the things I love to do is meditation. So I will exercise first. At first I get up, I have my routine. I have my warm lemon water to help, cleanse out my body and just kind of like detoxify. And then I go and I work out. And then I put on about a 10-minute guided meditation, whether it's grounding or letting go. Um, there is a YouTube channel I follow called The Guided Meditation, and I love that channel because there's a meditation for everything. Manifestation, for abundance, like you name it. Whatever I'm feeling, I put it on and I meditate and I bring myself into back down to the present, and it starts my day off on the right foot before I go to my, go to work for a very stressful day at my full-time job. And then, recycle repeats, work, then business, and then, bed, work, business, bed. It's like my favorite thing to do is taking that time to do that every day.
We are so alike. I exactly do the same steps. Apart from that, I'm drinking apple cider vinegar with water, but that's actually.
No, I do lemon. And
You do
sometimes,
lemon, yeah.
and a lot of times I add cayenne powder, turmeric, ginger, and cinnamon
That's very
for,
good. Yeah.
to help boost that metabolism
Yes.
because
Yes,
we're in
the
our 40s
metabolism.
and
Yes. We need that.
our metabolism went kapoof.
I don't know what to say about that. Only because I'm 55, will be 56 this year, and I hike 12 miles a day, and so I can't relate whatsoever.
You would not, you were in your 50s. You look very well. I would have thought you were more, I'm 42. I was like, oh, you're in your 40s.
I do
But
appreciate
that's
that.
because you take care of yourself.
And so for the record, everybody who's watching and listening, absolutely. Lori,
Yes.
we want to thank you so much for having this conversation with us and for bringing wisdom and help, hope, and healing, which is my motto, to
Thank you.
women, everyone that you touch. And so this story, your story, Noemi's story, will impact so many people. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I had a great time today.
Thank you, Laurie.
Thank you.